You may have heard the phrase that when you're trying to achieve perfection, 80% of the work goes into the last 20% of the quality. What this is supposed to tell you is that, by the time you've gotten to the point where you've, made the statement, everything beyond that is flourish. Everything on that is extra effort to make the thing better, to even out all of the errors and to add even more additional things to make it even better. And it suggests sort of that 80% of the effort is not worth doing because all you're doing is adding that last 20% of value to the product. 80% of the value is already there. But I think we should look at it a different way. What they're really saying is that once you have done 20% of the work on the vision that is in your mind, you will have achieved 80% of the impact that that thing has. And so, additional effort beyond that point, has diminishing returns. However, this only becomes true once you've actually figured out what that 20% is, because there's an essential 20% that will communicate the message, but you don't automatically hit all of those points just by doing 20% worth of the amount of effort it would take you to reach 100% if you were even capable of doing that. It could be that you spend, let's say, a month redrawing, reworking, moving lines around on an image, and you can never achieve even 50% of the idea that is supposed to be happening to the perfection that is imaginable, that is supposedly being achieved with this extra effort, right? So we can't look at it as though, you can just simply do 20% of the effort and therefore you win. You have to identify the necessary 20%, the most necessary 20% of the effort. So for instance, this is a vlog. This is a type of YouTube video that I looked down on in my early days as a YouTuber. I hated jump cuts. I thought they were jarring. I thought they were inauthentic. It takes you out of the experience. But at the same time, I hated my own vlogs having very bad lighting and, nauseating camera work because I pace around too fast and it fucking gives you a headache and, there were issues with the vlogs, but I figured out eventually that as long as you make a compelling point and you talk consistently and the only edits you make are when you stumble over your words and forget what you're saying, the vlog is interesting enough to be watched and people will get the point and they'll think about it, and yeah, you will have achieved 80% of what you were trying to do. I found the 20% that's necessary, which is a level of engagement that comes from the consistency of the speech, the tonality, the charisma in the acting, the way that I move, the just general layout of my house and the things that are in it have a lot of personality that, give specificity to, elements of my character that are not present in what I'm actually talking about. So, all of that adds this extra layer to the experience that maybe even takes it above just 20%. Maybe this is actually 40% of, the way there, whatever. Point being that it definitely is even less than 20% of the effort that it would take to make, a video that is of high quality because of the amount of detail and effort put into it. This would be a paltry in comparison to a project of that magnitude, and yet, nonetheless, I am getting across 80% of my point. But what I'm trying to communicate here is that while you only need that essential 20%, the other 80% is basically up to you. How much detail do you want to go into? People get into a mind prison of it has to be perfect. Anything less than perfect is unacceptable. But again, you can't necessarily actually achieve perfect. You might not be good enough. And, it might be that you'll never think that you are good enough, because it might be that you are literally incapable of achieving the actual thing in your head because it doesn't map to your physical capabilities. You know, every artist has unique lines. You might not be able to achieve the kind of lines that you are actually picturing, maybe with a lot of digital manipulation and extra time, but even then, you know, if you want it to look authentic the way it does in your mind, it might not ever quite be there. You know what I'm saying? It's possible, you just can't fucking do it. And so, you know, and maybe that will torture you forever, but I would encourage people to just, you know, think about, like, not only what you can achieve, but what is worth going through the effort to achieve, you know? So, like, for instance, with Kusomega, my light novel, you know, I started it off thinking of it as something that I was just going to put that first 20% of effort into that would amount to the 80% of, you know, of quality that it could have. And, you know, that first book, like, generously could be considered like an 8 out of 10 story. You know, it has a pretty decent plot twist. It's got some, you know, really memorable jokes and aphorisms in there, man. I think it's a pretty solid, decent book. It's obviously got, you know, some unevenness, some weird qualities to it. Hey, maybe some people would completely hate it, think it's a piece of shit, or at best a 6 out of 10. I don't blame you. But, you know, for me personally, it lives up to like 80% of what I would want from a book. You know, and I'm pretty satisfied with that as something that, you know, that at the start was like, okay, 20% effort. But then, as it went, I got invested. I started putting more thought into it, you know, and then when I approached book 2 and the continuing story, I was like, okay, I'm gonna put more effort into this, more thought into this than initially planned, you know, like, it will be maybe 50% of the effort of achieving a, you know, perfect book, which maybe will be enough to bump it up to like a 9 out of 10, you know, like, exponentially more effort, but marginal extra reward, but it would be satisfying for me to have the knowledge that I pushed it to the level that I felt the idea deserved. You know, I look at it and I say, this is, so far, it's been taken to like an 8 out of 10 place for me. I think I can take it to what for me will be a 9 out of 10 place. And it will be worthwhile because, you know, even though it will be more effort, the amount of effort, I've calculated it, you know, it will take this much effort, it will give me this much reward. In an emotional sense, it's already fulfilling enough that I would go through with, you know, creating the rest of the books. But also the idea that it could be fulfilling in a financial sense, or, you know, in a collaborative sense, allowing me the opportunity to work with other artists. Like, all of these things, you know, makes me think, ooh, I can put in a little bit more effort and it'll be even better and I'll be even more satisfied, and when I look back on it, I'll be happier, and I can use it as an opportunity to learn even more and grow even more in pursuit of my next thing, so that next time, with 20% of the effort, I will get even more of the way there, because I'm sure that there are writers out there who can put in about 5% of their, you know, total power level and still get, you know, I mean, we all know the famous 6-word story, and, like, that's just a perfect example of somebody, like, you know, doing, like, the... I'm trying to think of which Dragon Ball Z villain, like, snaps their fingers to demonstrate that, like, with a mere snap of the finger, they are 10 times more powerful than any, like, you know, character who's ever appeared in the show before. Like, that kind of move is what that story is. That 6-word story is this is like, bam, 1/10 of my power is enough to fucking, you know, shatter your reality. And if I were to go even further, you know, who knows what untold levels I could fucking reach, you know? So that's where you want to end up. But will you ever, you know, even if you put in as much effort as possible, you know, even if you put in 100% effort, 200% effort, 500% effort, will you actually achieve what you see as perfection, you know? They say that it's 20 and 80, but it's really to infinity and beyond.
Rapid fire pinpoint, play along, interstellar, hopscotch, planet skipping, bot jump, rocking off in one-way purgatory. Let's take notes, blinky blinky star strokes, constellation in my scope, jump rope with the Kuiper bell. Too close to the sun as my sensors melt. Felt worse in the gravity well when I couldn't even tell if I had a mass or was just a shell.
I'm currently working on editing a 3-hour lecture on the real history of bronies. It will be coming very soon. And then I am going to be going into basically a month of non-stop catching up on all my patron rewards that are overdue, and fixing up things on my channel, doing maintenance stuff, fixing up things on my house and doing maintenance stuff, and working on a gigantic video game analysis video. If you don't know what it's about, ask somebody who knows. And yeah, that's what is going to be happening on the channel in the near future. I'm sure other things will happen, but that's all I'm fucking planning for because, god damn it. Oh, also my book, Kusomega, Volume 3, and the Kickstarter will be launching soon, but there's really no need to talk about that till it happens. It'll happen as soon as it's ready. So, there you go.